Hey, love, before we go any further, just know this. I'm not here to be someone you follow, and I'm not here to teach you how to live your life. I'm walking my path, and I'm speaking it out loud as I go. And your path is going to look different, as it should. Sometimes, when something real is spoken, it cuts through the noise just enough for you to hear yourself again. So if something in this hits, or lands, or stirs something in you, I invite you to pause there. Not because I said it, but because you felt it. You don't need to rush to change anything. You don't need to turn this into a plan. Just don't ignore yourself, because your life isn't built by following someone else's voice. It's built by trusting your own. So take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and stay rooted in yourself while you listen. This is just a conversation. Hey, loves. I was just sitting here reflecting on the last couple weeks and just sitting in the gratitude of how far I've come. And I realized that like there are mothers out there. There are people that are just like me who could use this reflection to remind them and give them permission that no matter where they're at, they can do anything they set their mind to, no matter what anyone outside of them tells them. And I say that because I launched a book last week on my birthday. And I've heard so many times how people they can't do something because they've got kids or because their lives are too busy or this is going on or that's going on. And like I'm not denying any of that because everyone's lived story is their truth. But I was reflecting on my own in this past year. I've walked through health challenges. I've walked through moments of not knowing if we were going to have enough money to continue moving forward. Like, we have had such deep lessons as a family that have absolutely transformed how we view life. And in those moments, like, I didn't have more time. Like, I still had the same amount of time through this entire year. I had massive, hard things I was walking through, scary things that I was walking through, family members who were going through things that were really freaking hard. And even through all of that, I'm a mom of 4 kids. And I didn't have people watching my 4 kids for me. I had my children. I'm currently homeschooling one of them. And yet, I wrote a book and then published it on my own. I learned how to do these things so I could show up for myself. So then I could show my kids that they can do the same. And it's blowing my mind because I used to be that person. Like, I don't have any time in the day. I'm too busy showing up for my kids, showing up for my family. I have this to do, and there's always something around you burning. Always. There's always a fire somewhere that needs put out. But what I started realizing is not every fire is mine. I was picking up everyone's fires. So that way I felt safe because that was my safety when I was a kid. Not because anyone told me, to behave that way, but because that's what felt safe for me. If I took everyone else's fires, everyone else's emotions and lives as my responsibility, their happiness, their joy was my job, I felt safer. But the reality is we can't make somebody happy unless they let us. And when I finally embodied that deep within myself, I realized like nobody can make me happy unless I choose it either. Happiness is a choice. And I can be happy even as the fires around me are raging, even as my life is blowing up and God knows what. I mean, I've been through so many transformations in the last 5 years that sometimes I laugh like, what else could you throw at me? Because I've done it all. But what a gift to be able to walk through these things because my life hasn't been anything but boring. And that's what I set out to do 6 years ago, was I was living a mundane Groundhog Day life. Every day was the same, and I was overwhelmed and miserable because I was living life for everyone else around me, not for myself. And then my children showed me that that's what I was showing them, that that's what life was. And I'm like, I can't hand this life to them. Here I am choosing my identity as a mom, and yet I'm handing my children a life that I'm not even happy inside. So that choice transpired into 6 years of intense phoenix burning, I guess is the only way I can put it. I've walked through so many different things that have opened my heart deeper, that have allowed me to let go of things that don't make sense, and then also allow myself to see the gifts that I've always carried. But I hid and buried because society didn't like how I showed up in those gifts because they can be activating and they're challenging. Because I can see patterns and see how structures are no longer serving. And I ask those questions of, well, why? Why do we still follow these? Why are these still the things that we are doing? Why can't people choose to live their lives their way and that be enough? Because people are walking around in their own version of safety. And that's what I now understand. Is I was fighting so hard for my kids to be able to be safe in this world, which is no different than all the people that have different viewpoints than me, that are the complete opposite side of a spectrum than I am. They're doing the same thing for their families. We are all walking around trying to make life safe for the ones that we love. That is the gift that I can hold on to. That is the vision that I can see now, that allows me to sit in these spaces of these humans that are walking around not being kind to others. So it being spring break means mom is available all day. But what I was saying is I get it now. I walked through the last 6 years owning my hardships, owning and taking extreme, radical responsibility over my own life, my own triggers, my own traumas, my own things that I didn't understand. And every time I felt triggered and upset about something in the world around me, I took that and went inward and asked myself, why is this so triggering? Is it something I'm extremely passionate about? Is it something that I feel like I need to have control over? Why am I so upset from something outside of myself? Because I realize that my emotions and how I feel are my choice. And I no longer wanted to give that power to something outside of myself. I wanted to get to this place where things outside of me could not have an effect on my inner world. And by walking that, it helped me hold really starting to think I'm not supposed to record this today. But, anyways, thanks to walking through all of those pieces, I have a deeper compassion for other people's stories. I now understand that, everyone is out here walking around trying to hold on to their version of what safe looks like. And I don't want to argue that with somebody. I'm not going to argue someone else's life story and what their version of safety looks like in their body. And that's when I realized, like, inner safety is what got me to where I'm at now. I see myself and hold myself accountable, and I am radically responsible for everything that happens in my life. And because of those things, I am safe inside of me. I am my own best friend. I am my own deepest supporter. I have my back 100% of the time, even when I mess up, even when I say the wrong thing. I am the first person that's like, you know what? You are human and you are allowed to mess up and you are allowed to learn from it. And once I became that for myself, my own unapologetic mother, that's when my life changed drastically because I'm no longer at war with myself, which means since I am not at war inside me, I am not at war with anyone outside of me either. And it blew my mind. Like, that's what we weren't taught. Like, that's not the structure that we were handed. We were handed a structure that served people at one time. We were handed the structure of like, this is how you live life and do as I say. And all these people outside of you are authorities. And that built an inner voice, that built an inner environment. But nobody ever looked at these humans and said, you are your own authority. And should we have needed that? Maybe not. But when you have an inner environment where you think that everyone else is smarter than you, everyone else is more intelligent, everyone else knows more than you are. There's adults out there that just get life better than you do. It's very hard for you to be able to then have your back and make decisions, to be able to trust what your life is showing you for you to be able to follow the blueprint that is your life. Because you don't trust yourself. You've not claimed the authority over your own life. You're walking around letting other people tell you what to do, and you're taking that as the only way to live. And I didn't get there easy. I have family and loved ones that are a part of groups of communities that are targeted right now. People say that they're less than us. That they shouldn't be allowed to live their truths. And there was a time when I fought tooth and nail for that. Like, don't come for my family. And don't get me wrong, if there was someone standing right in front of me trying to do harm to my family, of course I'm going to step in and do my best to diffuse the situation. But what I'm starting to understand is the only reason people feel like they need to fight my family is because their inner safety is also at risk. Because they've been taught that their way of life is at risk if my family lives their way. Because somewhere along the line, we tried to say that society has to live by the majority, but there is no majority. There just isn't. Like, there is just so many ways of life. There is so many ways of living. And your way of life is not at risk because someone else chooses to live differently than you. No matter what we've been taught, no matter how many people outside of us have tried to say, well, like, we have to have it this way, and like, this is what it's got to look like, and we must control and control and control. Life's not meant to be controlled. That only served us back in the day when we had to have everything neatly positioned because if it wasn't, we weren't going to survive. We don't live that life anymore. Like, that is just not where we're at in society. We are in a place where we can all thrive. We can all choose to live lives that fill us up. And then I realized, like, here I am understanding these humans who would do harm to my family. I'm like, how can I can't sit and look at my children and be like, well, you need to, go fight these humans because that's not what I believe in. I believe everyone has choice in what they see for their life. They're entitled to how they feel and to their opinion. So I've raised my children to don't argue someone's opinion because their opinion means nothing about you. And I would never look at somebody and say, well, you have to change that because you have to agree with how I live my life because I don't believe that. Nobody has to agree with how I live my life. But I do believe in acceptance because I don't believe acceptance equals agreeance. I accept that people live different lives than I do. I accept that people get to have choice in how they live their lives, whether I agree with it or not, because it's not my job to agree with everyone else's lifestyles. That's a survival trait, and I'm not here to survive anymore. I'm here to fucking thrive. And that's the legacy that I chose to start handing to my kids. Because I would rather my children live full out, fully, freely, and unapologetically, and live a shorter life than live 80 years of the mundane, exhausting drudgery that I see so many of my loved ones living right now. I see so many adults that are supposed to have more wisdom than I do, and I'm supposed to sit and listen to what they have to say because they've lived more life. And don't get me wrong, everyone carries wisdom. But if they were to look at me and tell me how to live my life, and all I see is how bitter and angry and miserable they are, it's not the life I want to live because that's a life of survival. And I'm not here to merely survive. I'm here to fucking thrive. Even if it takes me out doing it. And what a gift that my life handed that back to me. That my life got so uncomfortable, that things got so hard to sit in the mundane drudgery, that my life, my energy that flows within me, my connection to source said, girl, we're going to check that. I'm so grateful I chose to listen, that I chose to follow the signs, to listen to what life was trying to show me through my experiences, and made every single hardship work for me, not happening to me. I'm so grateful. And it took 6 years, which is quite a bit, but in those 6 years, I have met so many amazing humans that are now forever family to me. I've walked through so many wild stories that it led me to this philosophy, do it for the fucking story. There's a lot of things that I have done that people would not do it my way, and I'm so grateful that I now can, because I do it for the story. Because even when I mess up, even when things blow up in my face, it adds to a really fucking cool story. And my story, the life that I'm choosing to live, is full, and it's free, and it's unapologetically mine. And it doesn't look like many of the people in my life's, like, it doesn't look like their stories. And that fills my heart because I finally understand it's mine, and it's not supposed to. It's supposed to look like mine, and only I know what that looks like. I'm the only one that can follow that blueprint, that can find that blueprint and to live it. Because I needed to trust my own voice and my own life to show me the way. And that's the legacy that I'm handing to my children. I am not the authority over them. I am the support. I am standing in a gift that I received by getting to be their mom. Because I get to be the one that speaks life and love and choice into them. Because when I speak, when I show them that I am the authority over my own life, and then speak that into them about theirs, that changes their inner environment. It changes the emotional environment that they're growing up in, but also it's handing them their own life. It's handing them confidence in the fact that no matter what life throws at them, they can handle it. They can do hard things. Life is it's not always going to be easy, but even when it's not easy, they can handle it. And they can handle it because I've spoke that identity into them. Even when we don't necessarily believe it in the time or in the moment. Because what I'm starting to understand is everyone talks about how where we put our focus, attention flows or energy flows. There's people that say it all over, where we focus, that's where everything flows to. If you're living a negative life, you're focusing on negative things. If you're living a positive life, you're focusing on positive things. And that's the very simple thing I realized with my kids through hardship. Don't get me wrong, it was not been easy. Still not easy. But I choose my battles because I'm starting to understand that where I put my focus, energy flows. And if I speak love and life and trust into them, they will rise into humans that love and trust themselves. And that's all they need. They don't need me to criticize them. They don't need me to tell them how to live their life because I never needed anyone to tell me how to live my life. I have known since I was a child what I needed. My life has always led me exactly where I needed to go. Even when it was hard, even when I was sexually assaulted, even when all these things happened, my life knew what it was doing. I had gifts that my family didn't know about because I didn't even know about them. But I was so connected to who I was. I made it through always. And I have the same trust in my kids to be able to do the same. Because I know life is leading them. And my vision for them is not going to lead them to their fullest, freest life, but theirs will. And I trust that they can do so. And this model of loving them freely in this way and speaking love and life into them is transforming these tiny humans and older humans, because I have older kids too, just transforming the way they walk through life. And it allows us to enjoy one another instead of being in a constant war with all of us, because it's never about being at war with one another. Like, I'm not here to fight them. I'm not here to yell at them. I'm not here to control them. That's the old world of survival. And again, I'm not handing my life or handing my kids a life of survival. I'm handing them a life of living full out. Because here's the reality that I see. And this is where people don't have to agree with me, but this is what I see as a pattern seer. There are kids all around us that die every single day. And it fucking sucks. And it used to be one of my deepest fears. I still definitely do not ever want that to happen to my kids, but I also know that life happens whether I want it to or not. And if that's a possibility, I've always had this thought of, I trust that everything we do happens for a reason. And, I sit with this, okay, if I say something to somebody, I think about the what ifs of like the next day, what if they passed away? What if they left this earth and I said this awful, horrible thing to them? So I'm always very mindful about what I say to people. But then there are times when I am human and I say things in ways that I don't always mean, or maybe I do mean, and it just comes out in a way that's not kind because I held it in for too long. What I realized is sometimes those pieces aren't even about them. Like, they're about me and not owning the fact that I get to live life my way. And then I'm taking it out on the people around me because I'm exhausted. So once I started being radically responsible for my life and my story and giving myself the time and space that I needed and allowing myself to be fucking human, I no longer said things like that. But then I realized, like, fuck, my kids could die tomorrow. Like, that's a very real thing. And what if I'm sitting here arguing with them about something in their life that is a choice that they get to make about their life because, in my, older abilities, I feel like my way is the only way. And what if they go out, and all they wanted to do was enjoy something in their life? And I'm like, no, you have to, stay home and do this work. And, this is what's going to lead to a better future for you. But what if their future is cut short and all they did was continue to walk through all the things we've said that you have to walk through to have a better future, but yet they didn't enjoy their life as they got there? And then they never got to enjoy their life ever. Like, that's something that rolls through my head a lot. I don't want to be that inner voice in my kid's head. The voice of criticism, the voice of you should do more, the voice of you must do all these things first and you don't get to enjoy life. You have to do all these things before you get to live it. Because the reality is, we don't know when we die. And again, what if we die before ever getting to enjoy our life? I've heard elders tell me, well, I get to enjoy it when I retire, but what if you never make it to retirement? How are we supposed to hand that kind of life when we look around and see that life is not predictable? Like, we don't know. And then I am told, like, well, you shouldn't be focusing on those things. Well, it's not that I'm focusing on it, it's that I'm challenging these patterns of this is not working, this is not sustainable. And it's not the life I want to hand to my kids. I want them to live full out. I want them to enjoy their life deeply because we don't know when we'll leave this earth. And I trust that life knows better than I do, better than my brain, because my brain is only trying to protect me to survive. But my life force that flows within me knows divinely where I'm going. And I'm going to trust that. I'm going to trust that it's going to lead me to the next right course for my life. And it's going to make for one hell of a story. So that's the reflection I had today. I'm just sitting in this deep gratitude of like, thank God I walked through the last 6 years. That I'm handing my kids a legacy of freedom, inner freedom. And I know how wild that is to say, because like you look around in the world right now, and I know there's fires everywhere. And it does not look like freedom. And there is a whole lot of fear, and there's a whole lot of things that are heavy. And even with that, I choose inner freedom because nobody can take that away from me because I took it for myself. And I will not give it away. Even if I'm not free on the outside, no one will take my inner freedom. And that is what I'm going to continue passing on to my kids. And these videos, these conversations that I'm going to continue putting out, they're for me to speak my truth, to let my truth sit at the same table as everybody else's and it not mean anything other than this is my journey. And it's going to trigger some people. It's going to also resonate with some. But I'm finally to a place where I'm going to let my truth sit, because also this legacy, this will be here for my kids later, and these are the stories. These are the things that I want to pass down to them, and it will forever live here for them and for their children's children, for however long YouTube is here. These conversations will be alive for them. Just like the books that we write that have changed people's lives for years to come. Because stories, people telling their truth, is how we have continued to evolve. And everyone's truth deserves to be spoken, and it doesn't mean anything about yours. So, that is my reflection for the day, and just sitting in such deep gratitude, because my goodness, it's been a fucking journey. And I'm so, so grateful for all of the things that I've walked through, for all the hardship that led to this book coming out. And this book was nothing more than freeing myself to speak my truth and letting it sit at the same table as everyone else's. Because my truth does not minimize someone else's. They all get to coexist. And that's my mission. That's my deepest truth, is we all get to be who we came here to be. And we don't have to yell at one another to do so. We don't have to make it a huge thing about everyone else. We don't need everyone else to understand us. We need to understand ourselves. And that's the gift my life gave me, was the gift of understanding myself so deeply, and choosing myself freed me, which also freed my family. And it's wild. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this journey with me. And just, I don't know, if you take anything away from this, my hope is that you take away the ability to hear yourself deeper. Because the other part of my journey is I didn't want to fucking teach nobody. I still don't. So who the hell am I to tell you what to do with your life? No one knew what to do with mine. I got so sick of people telling me what to do with my life because it wasn't helping me. It wasn't leading to my life. So how do I stand somewhere and say, like, well, listen to me, I'm a coach, or I'm this, or I'm that? Like, none of it ever made sense. And it's because I was never meant to do those. I'm not that kind of leader. I am the leader who leads people back to themselves, which is something I wish I had. It's what I did for myself, which took way longer than I would have liked, but also was so divine. But that's my wish for people, is as I sit here and share my story, it means nothing about yours. But there will be seeds for everyone to be able to hear their own truths. Permissions that I wish somebody would have given me, that we shouldn't need, but in reality, so many of us just didn't feel like adults. I still don't feel like an adult most days. I'm just Sarah. I'm just the little girl who and still walking through life. And I don't feel like that inner voice ever really grows up. It just stays who we were when we were born. And that's the gift. That inner voice is way more divine than we've ever given it credit, because it's allowing us to live a full, free life, not a life of control and living in boxes to just merely survive. And it's so cool. I don't that's another conversation for another day, but thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my intense gratitude. And I know this video is longer than I want to make most of them, but today the gratitude is immense. I'm still sitting here in awe of, like, I'm a published author and how wild that is. And it still doesn't change who I am, but it just shows me, it's another level of showing myself that I can do anything I put my mind to, as long as I believe that I can, as long as I choose to identify as the person who does so, as long as I have my own back. And that's what these conversations are about, having your own back. So I hope today that you have your own back, you see yourself, and you start building that inner safety and being your own unapologetic mother, parent, father, whatever you identify with. Be that own unapologetic support system that you need, because that will lead you to your fullest, freest life every single fucking time. And it's a gift, my friend. Much love. Until next time. If something in this stayed with you, if it shifted something or made you see your life a little clearer, hold on to that. Not tightly or forcefully, just enough to acknowledge that something in you responded. You don't need to prove anything from here. You don't need to rush into any change. Just stay connected to what you felt, because that's how your path unfolds. Not by following someone else's way, but by recognizing your own way, moment by moment. I'm walking mine, you're walking yours, and sometimes our paths meet here. So take what's yours and let the rest fall away. Come back to yourself. Everything rearranges from there.
Flow like rivers, wild and free. Dive into oceans that call to thee. Breathe in the wind, let it carry your name. Unapologetic living is your claim. Let the waves whisper your story bold. Their rhythm eternal, their wisdom old. Echoes of dreams in the sea foam's dance. Find your truth, take the chance. The tide is rising, beckoning your soul. Crash through the doubts, make yourself whole. The world is vast and the water's deep, where courage wakes and fear's asleep. In every droplet you're alive again. With every ripple a new world begins. No need to hold back, embrace the stream. Unapologetic living